Today I'm going to be doing a low light comparison between the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K and the Sony FX3. So I shot pretty extensively with both of these cameras, and I honestly can say that they both perform really well in low light. We know that about the FX3 already, but considering the fact that the BMPCC4K is a third of the price and has a significantly smaller sensor, I think that this camera does punch well above its weight, so this will be an interesting test. Also, quick note, I did shoot at the exact same ISO, exact same f-stop, exact same shutter speed, but the FX3 footage does look just a tad darker, and I think the reason for that is just because they are two completely different sensors and two completely different brands, so I think that's why the ISOs aren't matching up perfectly. So I will leave it as is, and with that noted, here is the low light test. Alright, so that was the low light comparison. So now here are my final thoughts. So ISO 1000, I did notice that there was a bit of noise in the BMPCC4K along with a loss of contrast and vibrance in the colors. Then when you switch to ISO 1250, it still is a bit noisy, but you get the vibrance and the colors back. But you do lose a good amount of information in the highlights at ISO 1250 on the Blackmagic, so that's just something to know. And after ISO 1250, I think both cameras look very similar in terms of noise and color, all the way up until ISO 5000. After ISO 5000, the FX3 definitely starts to take the lead, and it does start to become a little bit more noticeable in terms of noise. But one thing I will say is when looking at the footage, the Blackmagic's noise does seem to feel a little bit more filmic, and even though the FX3 has less noise, it seems a little bit more digital, so maybe there's a little bit more noise reduction going on in the FX3 than in the Blackmagic. At ISO 10,000, both cameras are somewhat noisy. The FX3 is noticeably cleaner though, and once you get to ISO 12,800, that is when the noise floor resets on the FX3 because that is its second base ISO. So that's when it does start to make a huge difference. But again, I think if you're shooting at ISO 12,800 and more, you're probably shooting because you're in a pinch. But it definitely is cool, and I have found myself shooting at 12,800 in some situations. And it is nice to know that the noise is pretty much gone on the FX3 and very minimal. And the Blackmagic's max ISO is at 25,600, and it is significantly noisier than the FX3. All right, and with the sun setting, I just switched the ISO on the FX3 to 12,800, so you can see it's handling really well. Now we get to the max ISO of the Sony FX3 of 409,600, which is completely insane, and I can confidently say I will never shoot at an ISO that high. So in conclusion, I think both cameras do incredibly well. The FX3's low light capabilities are insane and so awesome, but they are, I would say they're more of a luxury than a necessity if you are getting into filmmaking. The Blackmagic really does hold its own, considering its significantly lower price point and its smaller sensor. But I will be honest, I have found myself in a pinch where I am shooting low light, and being able to push past like ISO 25,600 has been really cool. If you do plan on shooting mini docs and find yourself in situations where you don't have time or the resources to set up lights, the FX3 would definitely be a solid option. But if you do find yourself shooting for the most part in daylight, lighting your sets, the Blackmagic will be more than enough. And I will be doing a more detailed and full-on comparison between the BMPCC4K and the FX3 later this month. But for now, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments about how you thought both cameras performed, which camera you have, and if you're planning on upgrading to the FX3. So that's the end of this video. I will see you in the next one.